This is Marcus Hanscom. I'm the Director of Graduate Admission at Roger Williams University in Rhode Island, and I'm your online education chair for NAGAP. I'm joined today with Linda Horisk. She's our education chair for NAGAP, and is also, Linda, what's your position there at Fordham?
I'm Assistant Dean for Admissions and Enrollment for the Graduate School of Education.
Great. And so we welcome you all and thank you for joining us in terms of developing what a proposal will look like for an education session. And it's really, I'm sure we don't need to tell you how critical it is for our members and certainly those involved in various GEM-related fields to contribute to our conference. Really, the members are our lifeblood and really what make us tick and are able to provide best practices to our members. So it really makes the conference possible each year. So we're really excited to be at Nashville this coming year in April, and this will be our 29th annual conference, so leading up to what will be our 30th anniversary in Salt Lake City the following year. So we're really excited for that. So I'm going to just get started with some basic information. We already talked to you about who we are, and we've been involved with NAGAP for some time, and many view this probably as a repeat performance you've seen of this particular webinar, and we'll certainly post the video of this on our YouTube channel later on, so if you need to reference it, or for those that you know that may not have been able to come, they could certainly follow up with this. But just a little bit of information about the conference, talk about the theme. We actually are really trying to be programmatic about the types of themes that we offer and kind of evolving in graduate enrollment management we offer to our members. Talk to you a little bit about the format and requirements for various proposals. We have different types of presentations that you can do, so we'll be talking about that. Also building a topic from bringing your idea to a proposal stage. It's certainly can be a long process and a daunting one for anybody who has not presented in the past, so we're happy to talk to you a little bit more about that, and I think we'll have some opportunity to expand a little bit on that in the Q&A portion. So if you have any questions throughout the session, you'll see on the right-hand side of your screen in the GoToWebinar box, there's a questions box there. You can ask any questions that you'd like right in that box, and we'd be happy to answer them during and after the session. We'll definitely carve out some time at the end to make sure that we can discuss specific questions that you may have. Certainly talk about takeaways and things that we have. So as I mentioned, it's April 13th through the 16th in Nashville. For those of you that might be new to the conference, our first day, that Wednesday, is usually just an evening reception, and we have a pre-conference that'll be during the day that day. And then our main part of the conference happens all day on that Thursday and Friday, and up until about brunch, lunchtime on Saturday. We'll be at the Omni Hotel in Nashville. We're really excited for that. It's a newer hotel. It's right in downtown Nashville and is connected to the Country Music Hall of Fame. So I'm a big country fan myself. I'm now looking forward to some of the social opportunities we'll have down there to go to some of the bars and nightclubs and things, and of course the Music Hall of Fame, and see some concerts, and hopefully we'll trek out to the Grand Ole Opry for those of you who might be interested in going out there. So the call for proposals for the conference is on the NAGAP website. If you just go to our website at nagap.org and select the annual conference, you'll see the call for proposals is there with information on how to log in and submit your proposal. You have between now and September 21st to submit your proposal on, it's a site called Presys. That's the platform that we use for you to submit your proposals on. Be sure to also register for the conference. Once registration is open, you'll have to register as an attendee, regardless if you're presenting or not. But we do require that you sign up for that. What we want you to do is try to build your proposals and your presentations around the theme of the conference. And this year we're really trying to embrace collaboration in the student life cycle. And that's really about connecting the various pieces of the GEM, the Graduate Enrollment Management life cycle for students. So as many of you know, that NAGAP has really kind of reformed its focus around graduate enrollment management as opposed to more of an admission-centric mission. And so we're really trying to be incorporating the various stages of a student life cycle and the various service offices that serve our graduate students, including financial aid, alumni, student services, student affairs, certainly legal issues, international student affairs, and others. So there's a lot of various spokes of the wheel, and we really want to try to be inclusive of all of those things and how they impact the student throughout the life cycle. So we do have 7 categories of educational domains that we have, and the Education Committee, under Linda's leadership, and first and at least under inception of Dave Fletcher, our previous education chair, had really kind of spearheaded us getting rolling in a more inclusive direction on wrapping our heads around these themes and the various domains and things. And Linda has provided some really fantastic leadership in getting us around those. And we have a really robust committee that many of you may not know, that our education committee actually meets in person twice a year as kind of an education summit to really build and be very intentional about the educational offerings that we have from NAGAP's perspective. And that not only includes our conference, but we also have our various, the Summer Institute and our Winter Institute for Advanced Professionals that we have, and also webinars that I oversee, and a number of other educational opportunities that we have. So we're really trying to build something that's inclusive throughout the year that really offers some really tangible and helpful benefits to our members. So this theme and the way that we continue these domains, Linda will tell you a little bit more about those, but really in terms of delivering on our message and the value that we have for you, those domains really help us do that. So topics for each domain, we're going to give you some suggestions later on in the presentation, and those are really defined by a wide variety of pieces of feedback and things, and we'll talk to you a little bit more about that, but we're very deliberate about how we've come about these domains. We didn't just sit around and say, oh, it would be nice to talk about alumni. We actually went through a very deliberate process of looking at evaluations and surveys to determine that. So we do ask that you can identify a topic of your choice as long as it relates to any of those educational domains. So when we make suggestions to you, those are by no means things that you have to do. We just ask that it's something that you can connect to one of those 7 domains and ideally wrap in some way around this theme that we have of collaboration in the student life cycle. So just a little bit about the guidelines. I touched on this briefly on the last slide, but we really analyze surveys and assessments that come back from each of our conferences, the institutes. We also have it from our webinar feedback. We also look at best practices. We've read a lot of articles, kind of current issues and topics. And we've really tried to include all those various pieces to make sure that our conference is an all-encompassing one to really touch all corners of graduate enrollment management. We also, at the board level, have established a strategic plan, a 5-year strategic plan that we've been working toward, and we've made significant progress on in terms of, again, driving value to our members and the various types of content that we have available for you, and making sure that you're a better professional, that you're able to contribute not only within your own office but also to the industry, and make sure that you're up on the most current topics and best practices that are going around. And I mentioned those education summits that we have. Those are twice a year. We also do a lot of research and things related to our professional development and do some informal surveying of folks at each of the conferences. So we're really very deliberate, and there's a lot of kind of research background. And I'm not a PhD by any stretch, but we have a number of folks that are actively involved with doctoral research or have completed their PhDs that are really looking at a lot of how we do things from the organization standpoint, how we can be very, very deliberate about doing research that brings back solid results that we can implement and really drive our decision making for the organization. And I'll turn it over to Linda.
Thank you, Marcus. And so if you think about some of the things that Marcus was just talking about, you can understand that the work that goes on behind the scenes by NAGAP board, by the research committee in defining GEM, and by the education committee and the various other professional development opportunities of conference, webinars, professional development institutes, that what we are at the point of doing right now is looking for people who are in the field, our NAGAP colleagues who are practitioners, who can come and present about their work, who can have a panel discussion or one of our other session options. And we want you to share your knowledge and your expertise because we feel that you will help to bring the vision forward and kind of an each one teach one sort of a way. And so in looking over the domains right now that you can see on the screen, these are our educational domains. And so what we would be asking you to do if you're considering submitting a proposal for the 2016 conference in Nashville is to think about the domains in terms of the common thread of collaboration in the student life cycle. So somehow, if you're doing something on recruiting and marketing, let's say, you are weaving in some way that collaboration takes place, and perhaps provide some examples of what you have done in your work. By looking at the domains also, you can see that they pretty much follow the student life cycle from recruitment through alumni engagement, and then the last two categories of enrollment modeling and strategic planning. There you see how the domains then become almost like a feedback spiral, where we're recruiting and then we are taking a look at our data and we're making projections for the future. One thing that we've noticed from our membership in that shift from admissions to graduate enrollment management is that indeed enrollment planning doesn't only have to do with well, we know we want to increase applications next year by 5% and intend to enroll and admit by 3%, but rather we want to look at percentages of who's graduating, who is staying with the program. You're looking at retention. You're doing non-matriculant studies as well. Why aren't people coming to my school and to my programs? And so indeed, the whole idea of enrollment management is being woven more into the work we do. And so for many people in our organization, what we found was that the work was coming at them and they did not have the training or the background, and they were getting more responsibilities. And so that contributed to the shift in the organization for us as a professional development organization as well. And I think if you think a little bit, too, about the last domain, which is career staff and personal development. So what that domain is about is you as a leader, whether you are a leader formally or informally, and keeping in mind what, if those of you who are on the call attended our conference, and our plenary speaker last spring was Barry Posner, and one of the things he talked about in his work on leadership with his colleague Jim Kuzis is that a leader doesn't always have to have a title. So you are in the field, and how is it that what you do influences others? So keeping that in mind, we do offer workshops on leadership, on how to be a staff developer, how to influence staff, your own personal development, what do you need to learn more about when you're looking at that conference guidebook, what are the kinds of sessions that you pick? Do you want to go and learn more about what you're already doing, or do you want to learn something about something that could be brand new that you could bring back to your school? And then, of course, we're also interested in being supportive to our membership for their own career development and career trajectories also. What are certain skills and knowledge bases that you might want to develop as you move along and aspire to higher positions in the field of graduate enrollment? Next slide, Marcus, please. Thank you. And so the next couple of slides give you some examples of topics that are related to the educational domain. And there is a list on the website, much more in detail than what you see here on your screen, where there are many examples of things that we are definitely looking for based on our research and our assessment of evaluations post-PDI, post-conference, and what we're hearing from the chapters as well. So there are topics that we're definitely looking for, but this is just kind of some brief examples here. And so why don't we just kind of take a look at recruitment and marketing. So when you look at the second item there, tech-savvy digital natives, how are you reaching them and meeting their needs? You don't only need to think about working with digital natives in the first part of the student life cycle, but rather how are you using technology throughout the student life cycle, whether it is with working on retention, working on satisfaction surveys, and then working with your alumni as well. So that's pretty much where you would need to perhaps collaborate with people who work in your university who are involved in different parts of the life cycle. And how do you integrate that into the work of your GEM team in its evolution from just an admissions staff? Another example we might look at on that first slide could be the student services, number 4, establishing and promoting an institutional culture of student service. Many of us who work in admissions settings pretty much do that handoff. Once someone is admitted and registered for classes, then they belong to their advisor and they belong to the school, the program, the university. And we don't see much of them. We do seem to be their home base because they come back to us if they have a question. But as you develop a student service model, there would be different offices and staffs within the university that you would probably need to network with and learn from. And that really fits in very well with our NAGAP GEM definition when we think about what's been deemed interrelated interdependence and cross-training. So that's the kind of thing that we're kind of looking for. Do we have examples of schools who have done that? Or if you have a plan to do it, or you've done a needs assessment. So you can see how we're trying to weave that theme in, and I hope that by the example that does kind of give you a way to think about how you can weave the theme into perhaps an idea that you've had. Should you have questions at any time along the way, you can contact the education chair, Leslie Brazina. I think she's here with us out there listening. But at the end, we'll provide her email address, and you can talk things over with her. And you could also feel free to reach out to me or to Marcus as well. And, love to be able to help you think about that just a little bit. Okay? Another thing that we ask you to do, no matter what topic or domain you choose, and that is to weave in the topics of legal and ethical implications. Now, we're not asking that you be a legal expert, but rather perhaps pose some questions that your audience might need to consider. So let's just use an example of you are creating you're going to do a presentation on how to revise admissions criteria. So you might pose some questions and give some advice, not legal advice, but that audience participants would need to check with legal counsel. Their final work would need to go to legal counsel to make sure that you are providing equal access, that kind of a thing. You would need to consider working with faculty, working with your deans, working with program coordinators, financial aid, and then for those of you in professional schools, obviously any certification or licensing boards as well. So that would just be one example of how you would offer a suggestion for looking at the legal and the ethical implications of whatever it is that you're presenting about. Next slide, please. And so there are different options for education sessions, and these are all described on the website and within PRESYS, the proposal tool that we use, the online tool. So you do have an option of doing a presentation. You can do that alone, or you might want to invite a colleague to work on this with you, or a few other people. What we would advise is not really to go above 3 or 4 people. If you're going to do something like that and each person is going to speak, you might consider doing a rapid fire session instead. And in a rapid fire session, the way that works is that people would give a 5 to 7 or 8 minute mini presentation or talk about a particular topic, and then open to questions at the end so that your audience can be participating in some way. I will tell you from reading evaluations and being on the conference committee for 3 years and now on the education committee, still reading evaluations, our audience members want sessions and their professional development experiences to be interactive. So if there's any way that you can have your audience participating, whether it's just question and answer, but to have something for them to be involved. People learn better and retain more, and learning is more meaningful when our learners are involved in the teaching and learning process. And so a panel discussion is not talking heads. A panel discussion should revolve around essential questions. So a moderator of perhaps 3 panelists would pose questions to the panelists, and then they can answer them. So what you're doing is you are staging more a conversation rather than having 3 or 4 people sitting up there and they each say something and then questions get asked. So I'm hoping that you see the difference. That's more like a rapid fire session than an actual panel discussion. The moderator would ask the questions, but also what happens is that because the dialogue becomes so rich and the discussion, and it reaches a whole other level, the moderator can kind of maybe bring things in a different direction, reel it back in a little bit based on what the panelists are talking about, and maybe if you're having questions during the questions from the audience can then drive the conversation as well. So make sure that if you're going to be a moderator that you do keep these things in mind. And then the final option that you have is a special interest forum. And the way that that is structured is that, maybe more than one person signs up and makes a proposal for a special interest session. So you pick a particular topic, and what you do is you might do a mini presentation. You talk about a particular problem or issues. You present some case studies, and then people go in your audience go into groups and they discuss it. And then there is a at the end you would have each of your groups report out. Those can be very, very interactive, and people have gotten a lot of takeaways from those kinds of sessions, those special interest forums. And we do like to have at least 1 or 2 each day of the conference. Okay? So keep in mind some guiding principles for the education sessions. We want you to share new information and best practices, and then point out how the new learning might be used by the GEM professionals in your audience. Be sure to allow time for question and answers, and specifically identify what the takeaways are. Takeaways are, and here's what you can do with this new information. It's different from a learning objective because it's going to be a clear statement about here's what you can do on Monday morning. And we have found that since we have kind of organized our proposals in this way, and then how the presentations and the education sessions will occur, that we've gotten some very, very positive feedback from attendees on that, on those particular things. Okay? And the other thing that you need to do is to consider levels of your audience. And I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. Next slide, please. Okay, and this is exactly what we'll talk about right now. What is the learning level of your intended audience? So you would need to identify that in your proposal. And so the way that NAGAP used to do this was that we would have beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So, and it was broken down by number of years in the field. So when we began, the Education Committee began to think about this, we thought that because things are changing so much in the world of graduate enrollment management, that even if someone has been in the field for 10 years, your job is changing. And so we decided that we would rely on Bloom's taxonomy of learning and take a look at what would be the tactical, the operational, and the strategic level. So let's say that you want to do something on analyzing data. So if you were to do a presentation that was more geared to an audience looking for the tactical level, that would be more the nuts and bolts of how to collect the data, how to look at the data, okay? That's the using, the doing, the implementing. It's really an understanding level. The operational level of learning is more developmental. That's when you would be organizing, let's say, the surveys, organizing how the data would be collected and who would see it, how to write a report about and when you're analyzing your data. That's definitely a more higher level skill than the tactical. And then if you were gearing your presentation at the strategic level for an audience that is already collecting data, but having more information for them and a lesson on how to analyze, how to manage it, how to do the evaluation. And then the most important part of data analysis is what do you do in identifying next steps. Okay? So you will be required when you're in PRESYS doing the proposal application, you will need to identify the type of audience, the type of information that you're going to be presenting about or having a panel discussion about, and what learning level it's at. Okay? It's still me, right, Marcus?
Yep, you're good to go.
Okay. And so the proposal application, you're going to put in your personal info and bio, and you would need to enter bios for all of the participants, and of course there are word limits. Make sure that when you're doing the bio, talk about your, there is a section there that asks about your presentation experience. So if you have presented at other conferences, or obviously within many jobs in enrollment management, we all present in different types of venues, what session type, which educational domain, which approach, which of the learning approaches you're going to use, and then you're going to write the abstract. And keep in mind that the abstract is what goes into the conference brochure, the pamphlet that you get and that we put online in the online guidebook, which is something that we've been using at our conference to lots of applause from attendees. You'll put in an outline if you're doing a presentation, obviously. If you're going to do a panel, you would enter questions if you're going to do a panel discussion that you might ask the panel. And then think about collaboration as well. We do ask the question, would you be willing to collaborate with someone else? And we do that because every year, of course, we get more proposals than we actually have slots for at the annual conference. And so if two people put in a proposal on the same topic, we might call you up if you said yes to that question and say, would we have somebody else who's interested? Would you want to give them a call and maybe think about co-presenting? We really like this topic. We like both proposals. Would you like to work together? So keep that in mind when you're filling out the application, the proposal. And then we also ask, would you consider doing a 2-hour session? And we do have some 2-hour sessions versus the 1-hour education session. And that one, you would really need to make sure that you have enough material and enough activities to keep your audience engaged. For example, we've done 2-hour sessions on topics such as leadership, such as data analysis, where people actually, for that one, we had them bring some kind of mobile device, and they were actually working with the spreadsheets that the presenter was showing them how to use. So, definitely think of things like that. Another thing that you can consider down the line, if you are chosen to do a proposal, is to ask for a list with email addresses of the people who have signed up for your session. And we know that oftentimes you have people who come in at the last minute, right there the day of the conference, but, send them something ahead of time, maybe an article to read or some questions to think about or some little pre-workshop assignment to kind of get them thinking and you'll want to engage them, obviously, in a deeper way when they're in your session. Okay? Next one, please. And how might you collaborate on a proposal? Obviously, connecting with your colleagues, perhaps, where you work, if you're in professional organizations, according to the field of study of your program. Feel free to go online and look at our NAGAP Facebook page, our LinkedIn, our Twitter, and any other social media if you belong to other organizations and there's someone that you know or someone you might want to reach out to and see if they want to do something with you. Many of our members belong to NAGAP chapters. We would love to see representation from all of our chapters submitting proposals and presenting in some way or another. If you're working with a particular vendor, we do have some proposals that come into us where our members partner with a vendor. Just keep in mind that if you do that, this is not an opportunity for a sale for the vendor. Okay, this is not a sales pitch. So you would have to create your proposal and do your educational session in such a way, okay, we use this product, but here's how we work together, and here is what we are doing. Here's what we've learned from the experience. That's different from, a vendor coming in, because they do have opportunities to do what we call a vendor presentation, where it is more a sales pitch about their product and their services, and they do pay fees for that. So there is a difference. But if you are partnering with a vendor in some way and you have questions about that, you can call Leslie for more information. Okay. And then a little bit now about the learning objectives. And learning objectives are required in the proposals as well, and they should be aligned to the theme of the event, as well as the educational domains that are related to the student life cycle. And they should be clear and concise, and they should be actionable and measurable. So by saying as your learning objective that your attendees will understand data analysis really is not clear or concise enough. And I'm going to give you some examples here in a moment. So there is a just one click away for you within Prefix and on the website to explain this in more detail and to give you examples of learning objectives also. You would want to reinforce within your session with data, obviously, and you're going to be using action verbs, so things like formulate, compare, illustrate, describe, predict, or analyze. Those are the kinds of things that we want to see. You should start each of your learning objectives with an action verb, and you would need at least probably 3 to 5 of those in your proposal, and then those will translate into what later becomes your takeaways. Okay, Marcus? And so here are some examples of learning objectives, and you can see where the action verb is in the beginning. And so just, think about some of these, engage alumni in your school, community, and student life cycle. So that would be a learning objective. And then one of the takeaways for that might be an example of what you should do when you go back to your school in order to do this. So it might be something like contact your alumni office to see if alumni lists are available to your school. Some schools do not give those out readily. That's why I use it as an example. Develop strategies to address student retention. That's the learning objective. And the takeaway for something like that might be something more specific that you've done to work on student retention, something that goes beyond the SAP list and students you need to notify that they don't have the grade point average. Next slide, please. And then how are your evaluations, how are your proposals evaluated? The Education Committee created rubrics for each type of education session, and they are all rated on 4 different elements, as you can see there on the bottom of the screen. Currency, importance, and appropriateness of the topic, purpose, outcomes, well-defined topic and abstract, and qualifications of the presenter. And that last one was probably the most difficult for us to create. And the rubrics are within Precis, so you are able to look at that. And the rubrics should guide how you create your proposal, so that you are creating it in such a way that you are meeting the standards that have been set by the rubric. Okay? And I believe, Marcus, are you up next? Oh, no, this is just timeline, I believe. Yeah. Marcus, am I into your slides here?
No, you're good.
I'm good? Okay.
Yep.
So the deadline for submission of a proposal is the 21st of September at midnight. And then during the months of October and November, you can see the who evaluate below there. That's when we work on that using the rubrics. And then in early December is usually our target date for notifying the submitters. You will be notified by the conference committee, and the chair of the conference committee, the chair-elect, the education conference chair, that's Leslie, the education committee chair, that's me. This year's conference chair is Renanda Wood-Deer, and then all of the members of the education committee are reviewers as well, and so figure that's about another 12 people. So you're looking at about 12 to 16 people are reviewing those proposals and using the rubrics to do so. Okay.
All right, so I'll jump in here, just talk briefly about the rubrics, especially for those of you that are new to presenting or generally haven't presented much previously, or if you presented for other groups. Sometimes you may not have run into something that's as formulated as a rubric can be, and the rubrics can look a little bit intimidating. By all means, this is just to help provide a guide for you, so don't let that scare you from doing a presentation or trying to put something forward or working with another colleague to put something together. We're really just looking for just kind of a general foundation to ensure that we have a quality agenda for the conference. Because the conference really relies on our members presenting, it's not like we're going out and hiring a bunch of people to present to us. We really want to benefit from the best practices of our members, so certainly we're the best ones we can provide that. So one of the first things is just currency and importance of topic, and I'll just touch on this briefly, but essentially we're looking for a topic that people care about, something that's going to be actionable that you can bring back, something that's got relevancy, but it's also tied in to our theme that we talked about in terms of collaboration in the GEM life cycle. And it's something that's not so specific that you're going to cut out the interest level of many of our members. Oftentimes those sessions are difficult to run and really get a good, especially when you're trying to get interaction from your audience. You want a broad diversity of folks that are interested in the topic that you have. It has to be something that's really cutting edge. We want to look towards people that really innovation is got to be critical in our field. We all know that from a day-to-day at our work. So we certainly want to see innovative type topics at our conference that are relevant and offer some value. And really the best topics are going to be able to drive based on best practice. They've got research behind it. They have some sort of data analysis. Anything that you can bring in that really backs up your argument, as opposed to saying, well, I think it's great to offer an alumni recruitment program. But if instead you come in and say an alumni recruitment program for successful recruitment in the Middle East, and then you say, well, we had 50 students from Saudi Arabia, and we had 20 students from Qatar, and we had students from the UAE, and this is the assessment that we made of what they're doing. These are the types of students that they brought in. These are the return on investment. Those are core data elements that you can then say, this is why an alumni recruitment program is important. So something like that is what we're looking for. We also want to look towards purpose outcomes. That's kind of our second category of evaluating these rubrics. And let me just bounce back real quickly. You see that these are rated from a 1 to 5 scale. So when those of us are reviewing, there will be multiple reviewers per proposal that's put in. So it's not like somebody just gets me and I have a bias toward a certain topic and I decide to rate it low because I don't want it at the session. We have a very good group of people that are very well versed on these rubrics and are making these decisions based on the rubrics and the types of content that you're providing in your proposal. So we're eliminating bias as much as possible and making a very equitable process for all. So you see in here, and you'll be able to read these specifically in Priestess, what a 1 versus a 5 represents and what we're looking for in terms of quality. So in terms of purpose outcomes, we want you to come in with key takeaways, things that you say, go back to your office and you can implement this on Monday when you get back from the conference. So things that are actionable that they can go right back and take care of. Those are important things. You want goals and learning objectives that are clear, things that they know are driven takeaways that are actionable right away. If it's very vague or you don't have any sort of key takeaways, I remember going to conferences years ago where it was just a biography of a particular school on what they did. There wasn't anything necessarily, unless you were identical to that school, which we all know graduate schools are not identical in any way. We all do things differently. You need to be able to come in and from a more broad standpoint, from a 30,000-foot view, say that all of you in this room can do this by doing X, and being able to have a takeaway that's clear, that's helpful to the group, as opposed to just going up there and giving a biography of what your school is doing. The next category is our well-defined topic and abstract. We want something that's very clear. It's going to be engaging. I use the word sexy. People don't necessarily love that, but in terms of marketing and getting the word out there, you want something that's sexy, that sells, that people want to hear more about. So try to delve into a topic, and even everything right down to your title and abstract are going to be able to sell your topic. You could have a fantastic topic, but your title is really bland. You might not be able to attract people to your session. So a lot of us are working in some sort of marketing capacity and recruitment, so we're used to these types of things where to put a spin on a really positive topic and really get it to sell to people. So make sure that you have a very clear title and clear abstract, something that's going to grab people in the first couple of sentences and say, yes, I have to go to that session, and if I miss that, I know I'm going to be regretting it when I go home. So very clear. Finally, Linda referenced that this was a difficult category for us to put together because we certainly don't want to discredit and again, we don't want to intimidate anybody that's never presented before, or if you're a younger professional. So this is kind of a grain of salt piece, but it does come into the play in terms of how we evaluate. And again, we have these multiple categories, so you could score 5s in everything and then a 3 here, and that really isn't a detriment to your overall presentation score. So we're just really looking for somebody that has experience in the topic that they're proposing. So obviously, I haven't done alumni recruitment, so for me to put in an alumni recruitment proposal and expect it to be really valuable to the attendees, I wouldn't think that that's a lot of value because I don't have any cred in terms of speaking about that. So we are really looking for presenters who have the qualifications that not necessarily are directors or VPs or heads of their offices, but again, as Linda referenced, Barry Postner's speech over in April, is that you don't have to have a leadership role in order to be a leader. So you may be an admissions counselor in your office, or you're a coordinator and you're doing more processing work. But because of the experience that you have, you might have direct expertise in the topic that you're presenting for. So we do have a piece in our evaluation to determine how much that weighs into your proposal being accepted. And we're particularly looking for folks that have worked in some sort of GEM capacity or a related capacity that can help our members. So some final thoughts. Again, collaboration in the student life cycle is kind of what we're striving toward in terms of themes. Actionable takeaways, we can't underscore that enough. Think of it as homework. A lot of my presentations over the years, I've given homework assignments, and people have appreciated that. And they come back year after year with a list of them and say, I was able to implement this and do this. So if you think about your takeaways as homework, if you were to give a homework assignment to the people that are sitting in your room, what do those look like? And how can they be something, if somebody were to go to take that takeaway, that assignment, and go do it and then bring it back to you, would you be able to grade it? Would you be able to give it some sort of score or assessment on how well they were able to do with it? So think in terms of your takeaways on how you can make them into those kind of homework assignments. So you see some examples here: developing a strategic plan for your GEM model, assessing strengths and weaknesses by taking a leadership assessment test. Some of us have done that through some of our NAGAP activities. Creating a task force comprised of various stakeholders on your campus to find out how you can improve yield. So there's a lot of things that are actionable in these types of examples and others that you could say, okay, it's a SMART goal essentially, that you're able to provide something that's specific and measurable, and you can provide results on that, and you could turn around and say, yes, I did this as a result of going to this session of the conference. So if you try to frame what you're doing, that's really critical. We've been trying to use the last couple of years the hashtag NAGAP Learns. You'll see that throughout. It's used throughout the year as well, but primarily at the conference for any takeaways that you have. And I'm in the process of bringing together all of the various tweets that went out over this previous conference and find out or develop some sort of takeaway that we can provide to you in a tangible form that shows all the various tweets that were related to NAGAP Learns. And the idea was to take all of these takeaways from all of the sessions and kind of aggregate them through this hashtag and then provide a takeaway guide or so, so that obviously you can't be in 5 or 6 places at once at each session, but by taking this in aggregate, you'll be able to look at all the various takeaways there were and gain from the other sessions that you might not have been able to attend. So why should you consider submitting a proposal? I mean, share your expertise with colleagues. I mean, there's a lot of information sharing that we have amongst each other, and arguably a lot of us will say that some of the best value that we have in going to conferences and even happy hours after fairs and those types of things, it's the networking opportunities that we have to talk to our colleagues, find out what they're doing, find out what CRM they're using, and in some cases it's just kind of a collective complaining and just to feel like we're all in the same boat. It also gives you an opportunity to grow as a professional. I could say that really a lot of my own personal growth early on in the field was being involved in NAGAP and presenting at NAGAP and meeting a lot of great people and learning a whole lot about the field, and that's enabled me to contribute a lot more to the field through NAGAP and also with my own position. And of course, I recently changed positions, so that certainly helped a lot. You can also list this kind of presentation or participation in NAGAP on your LinkedIn profiles or other social media so that you're building awareness of yourself. Certainly something you need to add to your resume as well, and could be something that really makes or breaks your next job opportunity. So having these types of opportunities are helpful. You can highlight your school, being able to say that you work at X institution and you're providing visibility of the things that you're doing. It might be an opportunity to even leverage an opportunity to come to NAGAP if you otherwise might not be able to get funding from your school, excuse me, but if you're approved for a presentation, perhaps they will instead decide to fund your trip and send you along to do that. So also we've seen a lot of members use this as an opportunity to leverage their own performance evaluations with their employers. So it's something you could have your supervisor reflect in that. You could try to get coverage by your media at your school. Maybe they'll do a press release or put you on the website as somebody that's cutting edge and contributing to the field on behalf of your institution. So there's a lot of value in that from a PR standpoint for your schools. Excuse me. Remember that really we work in education, so you want to make sure you're sharing best practices, sharing data, providing opportunities to process information, to interact and be innovative, come up with solutions. And our various formats allow for us to have a lot of different ways of doing that. And of course, the takeaways and the homework opportunities really allow for people to take what they've learned and put it into practice. So I suppose it'd be ironic to be working in education and not offer these types of educational opportunities that are built around how we do our own education on our campuses. So to be able to provide knowledge and have opportunities to engage and apply that knowledge and then have homework to really hit it home, that's really important to how you can move forward on your proposal. So in terms of preparing your proposal, we certainly have plenty of tips and things that we can talk to you about more. But in general sense, think about your strengths and your expertise. You may be sitting there thinking, there's really nothing I can think of that I want to present on right now, but think about what you do on a day-to-day basis. Maybe there's something innovative that you've done. Maybe you developed a new program, created some new policies, your own recruitment efforts, or you have a new financial aid process in place. All these various things, take any number of those and consider how you could build a proposal on that, and that might be really helpful to our conference and to our members. Definitely consider the learning level of your potential audience. Linda talked about those various kind of tactical pieces and more strategic pieces. So think about how you're going to deliver your session. Your session may be something that's as straightforward and tactical as building a communication plan in your CRM, or it could be something strategic like building a strategic recruitment plan for international students. So just think about which angle that you're going to have, and that'll really help define which audience should be coming and attending your session so they can get the most out of it. Take an opportunity to write your proposal in a Word document, proofread it, get input from your colleagues before you throw it onto our online system. It's a kind of cut and paste. It's a form that you fill out on Presys. So take an opportunity to put that into a Word document and do it separately. And excuse me, we did have a question before regarding if you have a proposal and you want to just kind of get some introductory feedback. You certainly could send that along to me or Linda or to Leslie Brazina, our education chair for the conference. And we'd be happy to take a look at it and see if you're kind of on the right track, give you some suggestions, maybe even connect you with other people that might be able to help you co-present if that's something you're interested in doing. So by all means, take opportunities to do that if you'd like to, and we'd be happy to help. Remember that your abstract that you put into the Presys excuse me, is the description that will appear in the conference program. So again, make it sexy, make it something that's really going to sell people. And that'll even sell the folks that are reading your proposal. If it's something that sounds engaging, I'm sure that's going to help in terms of getting your proposal accepted. And cite your experience in your biography that relates to your topic. There is a biography option on the Presys site. So cite your experience that's related specifically to that topic so that we can make sure we highlight that on the website. So that's about it in terms of just general tips and direction and things. So you have the contact information for Linda and myself on the screen. At this point, we can answer any questions that you may have. I see that there was one mention from Leslie. Thank you for sending that along. For those of you who may be working with vendors, or if you are a vendor, we will not have a separate process this year for vendor presentations. All of our conference proposal the conference proposal system will be one and the same for all presenters, whether that be vendors putting a proposal or traditional presenters. So keep an eye out for that. There's a question for us to reintroduce ourselves again, so we're happy to do that. Again, my name is Marcus. I'm the Director of Graduate Admission at Roger Williams University in Rhode Island. I've only been here about 7 weeks at this point. I was formerly at University of New Haven in Connecticut, and I'm on the NAGAP board as the online education chair. So Linda, could you reintroduce yourself as well?
Okay, my name is Linda Horisk, and I am the Assistant Dean for Admissions and Enrollment at Fordham University's Grad School of Education. I am also the chair of the Education Committee and the president of JGAP, one of the chapters.
And this question, the PowerPoint, yes, we'll make the PowerPoint available to all of you, and we also actually are recording this, so we'll post this on our YouTube channel. So I think I actually have it on our next slide. There we go. So if you visit our youtube.com/NAGAP video site, you'll be able to view the video later on today. And if you have any specific questions, again, you can contact Linda or myself, or you can contact Leslie Brazina, and you see her contact information there at the bottom. She's our education chair for the upcoming conference. She works at Regis University in Denver, so we're happy to have her alongside with us too. It's a really great asset to the organization. Can we answer any other questions that you all might have at this point? Again, we're available now or at any point via email or over the phone between now and the conference. Okay, it doesn't look like there are any further questions right now. So like I said, if you have any questions for us, I'll put our contact information back up here. You can reach us at the emails you see on the screen. And we really hope you'll consider submitting a proposal. And if we can provide any sort of direction for you or encouragement if you need that, we're happy to do so. So please feel free to contact us. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing your proposals, and we look forward to meeting you all in Nashville for a great time in country USA. So thanks so much, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Marcus.
Thanks, Linda.